Hi, Andrea Hill, CVA, and many other extraordinary things, including member of Alive. Welcome to Priceless Advice. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. This is an honor, a true honor.
I'm really glad. I wish that we were in the kind of times in the world where we could meet in person at a lovely conference near you in Memphis or anywhere else in the country or the world. But I'm glad to meet you this way. And we have not only some people and friends and colleagues in common through Alive and different Dovias and action groups, but you're also CVA. I'm a CVA. And I've seen you do some wonderful recent webinars and other things. So, particularly around our really fun and challenging, and I use the word fun with maximum sarcasm, COVID-19 pandemic crisis response. So, Andrea, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're up to specifically with Dovia's and your roles in Memphis and how that's changed in 2020?
Awesome. So, again, thank you, Dana, for having me on today. This is really, again, a true honor to be able to talk about volunteerism and the things that we do together and just abroad in around volunteerism. So, what in Memphis, what we do, and my title is actually the director of Volunteer Memphis. So, I work with an organization called Leadership Memphis. And this organization, basically, we go out, we gain class members in that want to learn more about their community and how they can impact their community. So once we've given them these wonderful, snippets of information, then they want to become engaged. So my role is then to help them get engaged through Volunteer Memphis. So we're like the Volunteer Center for West Tennessee, Northern Mississippi, and the county in Crittenden County in Arkansas. And so what we do is I put on for my day job, I guess, in my all-the-time job, is working in volunteerism. So we do like these National Days of Service projects and as well as our Volunteer Memphis Awards to really encourage volunteerism. But like you said, this is December, I think. Of
Yeah, I know it's like blurred. It's Thursday,
not January.
of December. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a meme that had like a picture of when New Year's Eve hits, the next day it'll just be 13/1/2020. So just another month.
The
So,
13th month of 2020.
yeah.
Exactly.
So,
The
so
luckiest month of the year.
that's the month of the year. So as we're going through these hard and difficult times, it's been my role through my Dovia and through different memberships that I'm a part of is to help people think about how to pivot during this time. And I'm sure all of your sessions and conversations for everyone, even listening to this now, have been around how do we pivot. And so we've done a lot of things and really talked about how we can do them virtually. And as I can continue on and just talk about all the things and the great things that we're doing, I'm sure you all are doing something similar. So, but I do want to focus on one event that we do have coming up that I think is really a great idea. And it kind of ties in pivoting virtually, but also maybe even some of the roles that we've had to take on as volunteer managers and administrators in fundraising. So the event that I'll talk about is our MLK Days of Service project. And so where many areas, they may do one day of service on King Day on the 18th of January. We do a 4-day weekend.
Hmm.
And that 4-day weekend really is an opportunity for us to get the whole entire community together, whether it's urban or rural communities. Everyone has the same passion. They all care about some of the same things. And so where we were able in the last 3 years to do it outside in the great beyond that we haven't seen in a little while, this year we're doing it virtually, or in 2021 we're doing it virtually. So that weekend we've really gathered a lot of our nonprofits that we work with to come together to actually put on virtual events and trainings and opportunities to really either upskill their clients, give them additional skills that they need to be more marketable, or it's a perfect time to do all that onboarding, orientations, and everything virtually prior to the world opening back up and us actually being able to go in person and volunteer somewhere. So that's how we've decided as an organization and as a community in the Mid-South here in Memphis to really pivot to still care about our community, still do things that will impact our community, but do it in a different way. But with that, any of our events, we have to fundraise for it. So what I've turned into, or has, I guess I've always been this, but really turned into more of a fundraiser. And in that regard, it's been a lot of fundraising and fundraising. And so definitely I could talk all day about that. But I'm going to let Dana jump back in and then I'll go back and talk some more.
That also ties into that idea that Jerome Tennille mentioned, another great CVA and another good alphabet soup after his name, uh, in because he's coming from the corporate social responsibility side, the CSR side of perspective, and he's been in the nonprofit side, so he's got that voice. But the point I'm making is great minds think alike, because his biggest piece of advice is do your research on the corporate partners you're reaching out to, whether it's for an episodic, 3 hour thing or a virtual giant event. So this advice that you have, this priceless advice, if you will,
Thank
of it's priceless. Uh, it's, invite them to other levels of participation. Nobody, I'm getting a million robocalls this time of year. I donate as much as I can. Some years are more generous than others because, the economy
you.
and pandemics and stuff. And I don't want to have to say no to people, but I also don't want to get a call as, a minor or medium donor only once a year of like, that's a very fair weather friend way to to look at it. That's not friend raising or fundraising. It's just sales, which is a part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important how you've integrated that. And you've also had a lot of success, not just pivoting to virtual things successfully and maintaining that engagement, but I've done some recent talks and I've seen some of your recent webinars about really utilizing the medical corps and emergency response volunteers and healthcare volunteers, because so much of that sector the volunteer part of healthcare has been kind of shut down a little rudely and abruptly, quite frankly, across the states, the United States. And tell me more, or tell our audience more, Andrea, about how you've cultivated those relationships and really made that work under some crisis circumstances with medical reserve volunteers, healthcare volunteers.
So as we have, like you said, as we've pivoted in this pandemic time, we've seen a need for us as a volunteer center, Volunteer Memphis as a volunteer center, to really help bring groups together and in the best way that we can. So we partnered earlier on in the pandemic with the city of Memphis, which is our city here, and then also with Shelby County, which is another local municipality as well. And so with that particular project, with in partnership with Innovate Memphis as well, we decided that we wanted to put together a skilled labor pool. And so what that entailed was the Medical Reserve Corps would really handle all of the medical reserve volunteers. They would do the screening, the appropriate screening for medical volunteers. And even now in the news today, I hear that we're in the city looking for nurses and additional medical personnel to help serve on that medical corps. So, but with Volunteer Memphis, what we do, we've done the skilled volunteers that are like the carpenters or the labor pool, if you will, that in any regard there may be something that happens and they need to pull on additional volunteers with a very specific skill set.
Hmm.
And so what we've done, we have that labor pool, but we also have our nonprofits that have COVID related projects. And so there may be the Mid-South Food Bank that has these mobile pantries that they need volunteers for. Not necessarily skilled labor that you need, but we want to make sure that we are directing enough volunteers to that particular project. There are some needs for potentially helping the seniors with their homes and repairs during this time. So those skilled volunteers will then be filtered to those particular opportunities. And so what we've been doing is really just collecting or gathering the names of those volunteers that are willing to give of their time. These are in-person opportunities, so definitely we're following all of the COVID regulations, social distancing, and screening. But really, it has been a help to our community because now, if there is an issue that happens, or as we know, the numbers are going up, there is going to be a greater need. And so, this particular group of volunteers will be able to be mobilized rather quickly um, and faster than maybe just saying, okay, tomorrow we know that we got this need, so let's put out the volunteer opportunity and we need volunteers. We already have a pool of folks who are willing to serve at any given time and ready to get out there and do what needs to be done to support, again, others in their community. So I think one of the I guess, opportunities where we have friend raised is where we partner with the local municipalities, city of Memphis, the government, and then also Shelby County and other local cities in our area to say, is there a need for you? And we will be that place, that volunteer center that can help you support any of the needs that you have moving forward during the pandemic.
That's so wonderful. It's such important work to shift to that collaborative, cooperative model. I mean, you're director of a good size and very healthy and well functioning Dovia in, director of Volunteer Center in Memphis. And there's still this, I've just still discovered that there are people who have uh, a scarcity mindset, or these are my volunteers, or you can't have them, or you're stealing my volunteers, you're poaching them from my program. And we have to throw that out the window, not just because of other crises, or hurricanes and weather crises and snowstorms and the pandemic itself, but I don't think that's a survivable model anywhere in any industry. Even I'm in San Francisco and San Jose area and Silicon Valley, and everything is like tech secrets, tech secrets. Like, well, the best advances that we've had have been when we've open sourced and shared information with each other. And I think that model that you're talking about of already having screening, having that data, the highly skilled talent pool ready to go, that cuts through so much time and cuts down so many barriers to people volunteering, that they don't have to individually, as a carpenter, as a journeyman carpenter, for instance, go to like, well, what 6 places might need me this week, and I have to figure that out by myself. So kudos to getting that streamlined, because I know that's no easy task to get everybody on board for friend raising and cooperating, particularly in government agencies. And I've worked in some government agencies, and some have been very progressive, forward thinking, adaptable, which is not usually words we apply to these agencies. And others have been, older institutions that are really bogged down with red tape. And so, we have to adapt to both those things. It sounds like you're slicing right through the red tape really well, really well. And another thing that I admire about the work that you're doing and what you've done in your career is, again, this idea of collaboration, cooperation, and the connection between different sectors. So you're not only a well-regarded leader of volunteers locally, nationally, try to pump up your brand here with this show.
Awesome, thank
Pump
you.
up the Andrea Hill CVA. And you've also tied a lot into mentoring in the business world and financial skills and literacy for youth. How did that? I mean, one, when do you sleep? But two, how does that all of that tie into the rest of your work as a leader volunteer? Like, was that a side project, or was that just from the get-go, we're going to do all of this, combine all this together?
So I have always been, in some regard, unconventional leader, and so where I never really think of it being like my organization and just Andrea, and it has to be just us. I've always thought that if there's some, just like I guess people always say, there's an app for that.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that there's a collaboration for that. There is somebody else who can do it better, or there's an opportunity for us to make this bigger than it is. And like you were mentioning, like with our Make a Difference week, we sit down and we think about what are some of the social ills of our community, and how through our national days of service and putting those on, can we make a difference? No pun intended. Or make a difference.
Right.
uh, so with our Make a Difference week that we had in October, it was pretty easy because we had a few board members that are bankers or financial literacy experts, and they were like, I said, well, let me pose this idea to you. We want to do Make a Difference Week. We are partnered with a number of youth organizations that do financial literacy for teens, but we also want to offer some opportunities for 25 to 20 to 25-year olds. Would you be interested? And they said yes. Now they could have easily said no, but because we have a very good friend relationship or friend raised relationship, they were like, you know what, that's a great idea. And so we put on a 3 day webinar series for youth between the ages of 17 and 25. We partnered with Bank of America. We also partnered with Rise Foundation, which is a local youth agency. And we partnered with Epicenter, which is an entrepreneurship organization as well. So again, where Volunteer Memphis really has turned into kind of the convener, the curator of these opportunities, we brought on the best of the best in these nonprofits that we want to collaborate with to actually facilitate a well-rounded, robust opportunity that supports our community. So that's one opportunity we have there. But just even me as an individual, I think something clicked, you know, for the better, for the good. In the maybe a few years ago, I won't say how old I am now. Like somewhere
we
around
don't we never ask that question on this show.
yeah, so great, great. I'm just saying. But just a few years, well, and I'll say more than a few years ago, I've always thought of serving others. It's like the ultimate thing for my life. So whatever job, whatever career I went into, I wanted to do that. But just really thinking about how I was a product of so many different programs like Upward Bound, our program here called Bridge Builders, and different support systems, even Head Start as a kindergartner, and seeing how being able to interact and engage and receive support from others, how it made me a better person. I thought, you know, why not do that for somebody else? So as I go through life, it's always the essence of how will this help and not hinder. And so as I help, the collaborations are helping others. But even for me, is there a way for me to say, I've been doing this volunteer management thing for a number of years now? Is there someone else who wants to hear some information or looks like they would really benefit and be great in this position? Let me mentor them. And so that has been kind of just, you know, people are probably like, no, I don't want to talk to Andrea. No, 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 I know she's going to try to help me do something. Or I just like, they tell me now, don't text me before 9 o'clock because I'm always texting people before their alarm goes off because it's like, I have an idea that's going to help
Yes.
them.
Ah.
Let me give you this. And they're like, okay, Andrea, thanks. And it's good ideas. It's not always bad.
Mm-hmm.
Or it'll be something that says, let's collaborate. Do you have time next week to talk about it? And again, it doesn't just benefit me, it benefits our organizations, and ultimately it benefits the communities that we're serving. So I just really like the opportunity to really be a resource to others and be a good resource, not a bad resource.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of noise that we have to cut through
Yeah.
in life every day, online and in other meetings and things like that. And I think it's really important to recognize where we've benefited
Mm-hmm.
from someone else doing an act of service, service to others, you know, and service to self. It's important to balance that. Like, don't be too selfish, but you got to have boundaries and time for yourself. And if you can't take care of yourself, then, you know, your cup's going to be empty trying to go out to the rest of the world. And that's especially true, I think, of leaders of volunteers because we're spread so thin all the time. We have so many projects and so many people depend on us all the time, and then working at home too.
Yeah.
And I love this idea of not just kind of paying it forward, but that when we create these relationships and create friend raising,
Yeah.
that genuinely ripples out in a positive effect. It's kind of that, you know, raising all boats idea, or I like it, raising boats from, you know, the grassroots level
Yeah.
only positively ripples up. And what do you think is what's a great step? Because a lot of people, not just, you know, and I'm on Pacific time and you're you're a couple hours different. So part of this is like, yeah, definitely don't call me before 9 a.m. your time because I'm
Right, exactly.
either dead asleep or just waking up and taking the dog to the yard. But this idea that when we are in a position of leadership, that it's about sharing and amplifying other voices for the greater good, even if that, like you said, if you're right for this position, I'm going to mentor you in this. And I've done a couple of years, a couple of cycles of mentoring through Alive, and then I mentor informally in a lot of other ways. And I have mentors. Like, you always have to be a mentor sandwich. I think that's ideal, where there's people that you're always learning from any age. It doesn't have to be an age thing. I can, I wish when I was 25 I had gone through your program and learned better financial skills. It didn't take me till my 30s to sort
Right.
out how credit cards really work and car
Yeah.
payments and things like that. I think these are lifelong skills, and to offer this kind of open, welcoming collaboration without judgment of, oh, nope, you're 40, you can't, no, that's the cutoff, you're supposed to be an adult and know everything now. It's like people learn. We don't have home economics classes in school anymore,
No.
and we all need them. We don't get taught how to balance checkbooks and
Right.
apply for credit, and there's a lot of bad actor systems out there that want to take advantage of people who don't have these skills. So I think that's really important to tie together with all the other types of relationships in the community, is this kind of education and literacy, mentoring, finding highly skilled volunteers, and just, I think that humility I appreciate of, I may not be the expert in this, but I can
Mhm.
help find someone who is, and it doesn't bruise my ego to say, nope, you're better suited for this. Please take this piece of this project, or please take the lead on this. And whoo, howdy, have we not had enough of that this year in the
Right.
world? How do you get that do you find that quality in people, or do you cultivate that quality of that? I don't want to, I mean, it may not exactly be servant leadership. I think there's elements of servant leadership styles in this, but that humility of like, I gotta be the least smart person in the room for this to succeed.
Yeah. I think for me, it is always knowing that there is an expert, or there is someone who has a very specific skill that can bring light to any situation. So I was just talking with some colleagues today with our event, and where people had the tendency to want to think about, oh, we got to do this, 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 and in my mind, it's like everything will just work out. So I don't know if that's just a calmness in me, or just to know that all the if all the pieces are in place, everything will happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I think it's a ease of, well, I don't really have to take on that, because at the end of the day, again, if all the pieces are in place, what is the magic to the sauce is that when all these people come together, something's gonna something's gonna come up with that. Something's gonna manifest from that. And you can't create that secret sauce. You can't create that click moment that makes everything work right. You can help facilitate everything to go well and put your structure in place. But sometimes it's just you took a wrong turn in Albuquerque, but you still ended up in the right place. I might
Exactly.
be aging myself a little bit on the cartoon
No, I
without.
get that reference too. Oh, I get the joke. I think plenty of our audience will get the Warner Brothers cartoon joke. And I think it's about trust. Something that's I've developed as a core of my systems when I teach or train or and consult and do program design for clients, is the 3 C's of happy volunteers: comfort, convenience, connection. And if you're always thinking about those things, even if it's a sticky note, or ideally if it's a strategy woven through everything you do in your agency, but under connection is trust and together. So it's really trusting that you do have the correct people in the best fit of roles with the best fit of skills, and then letting them do their expert thing,
Absolutely.
and delegating. That's another habit. I'll put words in your mouth, but that's a habit that I know I've had to overcome myself, of not being a micromanager and just saying, you know what, I do know how to do this particular task and project piece. However, I'm going to spend my time supervising and doing more strategic things, and I'm going to trust this piece to this person that I hired or have on my team because they're super smart and capable. And why wouldn't we let the super smart, capable people around us do their thing? And
That's right.
again, I run into that barrier all the time in life.
No,
So we need to
it's, it's,
package your Memphis secret sauce. I'm sure it's
you
amazing and delicious. Like put that secret sauce in a bottle, lightning in a
know,
bottle.
it's
And
like our barbecue sauce in
yeah,
Memphis. We have the best ribs in the world, and so it's like that, but it's not edible. It's tangible but not tangible.
yeah. It's that in between, It's like just let it trust the process, trust your
That's right.
team, trust your
Yes,
people.
yes,
Memphis secret sauce, we may not be able to actually bottle and distribute this,
yes.
but I think that key ingredient is that trust and that collaboration. When you are mentoring or advising people in your programs, in your organizations of any age, what do you see as the most difficult first step to them reaching out to form new partnerships? Is it that fear of rejection, or is it uh, something else? Because for a lot of people, even organizationally, it's hard for organizations or agencies or individuals to take that step to reach out and collaborate. Do you have a method to that, or do you just like go for it?
You know, because I've been doing this for a number of years, and even when I lived in Atlanta, one of my jobs and all of my jobs pretty much were around partnership development. And so I've kind of honed this being able to bring everyone to the table and come to a common product, and then we all put that product forth as a collaborative group. I think a couple of things I can think that people are kind of fearful. It is one, it is that rejection piece. Two, it's will it work and how much work will I have to put into it to make this collaboration work? And then the third thing would be, is my organization open to this particular partnership? So all three of those things kind of come into play. But I think if again, if you have a shared mission, a shared goal, and there are two or three organizations that are out there or corporations that are out there that can help you move that mission forward, I think it's worth the chance that they say no. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, and it's actually not my quote, it's actually my sister's quote, but I'm gonna use it because she's not sitting here with me, is uh, no is only a delay for now. So if they say no to the partnership today, it may be that it's just not the right time. But maybe in 2021 or the 13th month of 2020,
Otherwise
there
known
is,
as January the 13th month of 2020.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe there's an opportunity for that partnership to work. And again, I think everything is really centered around, I guess if you put it down to one thing, it's around timing. And if it's the right time, the right people are at the table, and the right willingness to get whatever it is done, then that partnership will work. But even if the partnership doesn't pan out, and maybe you just get started with thinking about whatever it is, it's still not a bust. Because at the end of that project, if it didn't work, you learned why, or you learned that that maybe wasn't the best partnership. And so now you are able to kind of put that in your Rolodex. Again, I'm dating myself. Put it in your put it in your notepad, and then say next year maybe not this partnership for this particular event. Maybe they'd be better suited for another project that we have. So all of it is generally a learning lesson, and if we're willing to learn through the process, and I think be okay with failure, because failure teaches you something. Nobody's perfect, and so if you fail forward, I think that's the best thing that you can do.
I love Fail Forward. I do a lot of work with theaters, local live theaters, which aren't doing much of anything right now, a little bit virtually. And I've got my own background that I've found extremely helpful in this sector and this profession and life in general, which is improv theater training. And improv doesn't have to always be comedy, but it's about not judging thoughts, saying what's going on, reacting in the moment, and failing forward and failing with dignity is a huge core of that, of not being afraid of failure, not being afraid of, you know, embarrassment because it's not real. It's just your own head. But I think failing forwards is important. I think there are too many people who are failing upwards
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
world and not learning from their own mistakes, but they're, sometimes coming from privileged backgrounds or connections or whatever else that kind of gets them.
Well, and what I'll tell you too is like one of the things that I use as a not necessarily a thing for life, but kind of as a motto is Kenny Rogers' the song Gambler. So
Yes.
you gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run, and never count your money at the table. So if you count everything, every decision that we might make as a volunteer manager might kind of fall within one of those areas. And so if you kind of think of it in the five whys, or think of it in that the gambler for me, because I'm like a comical person, you always think and make the best decision for that moment, and also the best decision that will be a long lasting impact decision.
That's great advice within the song. Rest his soul, rest in peace and
Yeah.
power, Kenny. And I think it's important for people to know that we learn from mistakes. We're always gathering experiences and experience points and
Absolutely.
wisdom points if you think about it from, a goofy video game point of view. And knowing how to just get back up and keep going
Yes.
after some project doesn't work out, laid off from something. I think that's been a big lesson for people this year, is coming back to the beginning of our conversation, not just that pivot,
Yes.
but learning as we go. And so in a lot of these priceless advice interviews, a common theme that comes up is, and it's coming up today as well with you because it's so true for our sector, is what do we leave behind that doesn't work anymore?
Mm-hmm.
World's never going to be exactly, there's no going back, but what do we leave behind that we've been needing to change within our organizations or ourselves or our ways of leading volunteers? And what are we open to learning for new lessons going forward, even if they're challenging or uncomfortable or unpleasant, in doing that? And what are some of the things that this year you're like, whoo, I'm glad we're not doing it that way anymore? And what are some of the ways that you're like, oh, I hope we keep doing this even when we can like hug and be in person again?
So I think the greatest thing is this virtual recognition events and virtual events. I know everybody is almost tired of Zoom and Google Hangout and WebEx and all these different platforms, but I think it has really opened us up to doing it different. And where I talk about orientations or trainings, where we used to say, we're going to have this every Thursday at 6 p.m. at this particular location. We're going to do orientation. And everybody has to lug their little cart in their boxes with applications and materials and laptops to put the PowerPoint up and projector. And you just serve or have 30 people in that particular orientation. Or that night, only 5 people or no people show up. But you spent that energy to have that orientation and the money to really get there to whatever location if it's not at your office. I think now with using technology, it has given us an opportunity to say we can have a virtual orientation and post it on our website and just ask people to go there and look at that video for 30 minutes, email us maybe a report or some kind of way to calculate that they actually attended, and then they can start volunteering. Now that 30-minute video can serve hundreds of people as opposed to maybe just that 30 people a year you may have been able to contact in person. So I think it's giving us an opportunity now to move forward, to utilize technology in a better way. And I will also add that during this time, volunteer managers have so many marketable or transferable skills: fundraising, event planning, HR, everything that you can think of. This is the time to hone in on those skills, get your CVA, get your fundraising certificate, find a project management certificate program that you can get into, develop hone your skills, because now as you make yourself more marketable, you can move up in your company or move to another company with a different title that you've been wanting to. And I know we were talking about, people in their 40s or whatever. I mean, you can start over at any age. And volunteer management, again, because we have so many transferable skills, can go into corporate America, can go into banking, can go into different areas. And the world is open now. So learn as much as we can, get the virtual trainings in, and then just change. If you don't like what you're doing today, you can do it differently tomorrow, for sure.
I love it. And we're both CVAs. I think it's so important if anyone is capable. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of money, sometimes Alive, Association of Leaders in Volunteer Engagement, if you're a member of Alive here in the States, or um, VMPC, Voluntary Management Professionals of Canada. Since the CVA is global,
Absolutely.
there's some thousands of us that are CVAs, and it's the only certification that I think is it's wonderful that it's globally recognized, that anyone can apply to take it, but that it functions more as like a bar for attorneys or a medical
Mm-hmm.
board or an engineering board test, in that you're not taking a weekend class. Weekend classes are nice and little
Yeah.
paper certificates are nice, but it's not a semester, it's not a weekend workshop. It's already being so deep in your profession after at least a few years,
Yeah.
and being recommended by colleagues that you have these real life day-to-day skills. There might be, study groups, and because the CVA covers so many categories of skill sets of personnel, financial literacy,
Mm-hmm.
ethics, program design, nuts and bolts stuff. And I'm not a math person, which is odd because I'm a music person. And it really helped, when I was first going for my CVA in 2014-ish, 13, 14. I'm not so egotistical. I'm humble enough to, well, I'm so humble. I was ready to be like, you know what? I'm going to join the study group that's focusing on the financial stuff, because that's my weak spot.
Yeah.
And even unofficially studying for the grand test to pass the CVA brings your skills level up, plugs you into a deeper network, not just of CVAs, but of other professionals, other potential mentors, other potential mentees. And I'm always going to shout, get your CVA from the rooftops. And again, if you're a member of Alive or a certain Dovia,
Yeah.
local Dovia, regional Dovia, city Dovia, you probably get a pretty good discount to the registration fees. And it's such a valuable addition to any other letters after your name, as including, you know, if someone's got a master's degree, if they've got, MS, Master's of Science, if they've got CFRE for fundraising, SHRMS for HR, all that stuff. And I run into more and more of us in this sector, not just within Alive or National Alliance for Volunteer Engagement, who are like, ooh, they're really getting a good alphabet soup. I was like,
Absolutely.
I'm like, that is a Renaissance person. Like, that person knows a lot about everything,
Everything.
and they're an amazing resource, and they're also, constantly interested in learning and curious. And I'm really delighted that I got to meet you virtually. We'll meet in person someday in the after
Oh,
times. We'll
yes.
meet somewhere. I'll come down and have barbecue with you in
Yes.
Tennessee. As I haven't been to Tennessee in about 15 years, which means I haven't
Okay.
had good barbecue in about 15 years.
That's too long. That's
That's
too long.
way too long. It's been like 2005, 4 or 5. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I started to think about that, setting up this talk with you today. It's like, one of my next trips, when it's safe to go, is I gotta go back to like Memphis and Nashville and
Oh yeah.
get some delicious food with wonderful new friends. But
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to talk to you today, Andrea, and glad you could make the time to share your priceless advice and your Tuesday tips with everybody. And absolutely wish you and yours a happy, healthy, fun holiday season, and January the 13th month of 2020
Yes. Yes. Yes.
in the new
Yeah.
year.
And December is my birthday month, so
Oh, happy
yeah.
birthday!
Happy birthday.
It's this birthday.
Yeah.
He is over years old. Happy birthday.
I'm older. I'm older.
We're old enough to know all the great songs together.
That's right. That's right.
And when we get together, maybe I'll bring my guitar or something, and we'll play
yeah.
songs.
Absolutely.
We'll do that. Wonderful. Well, have a great rest of the year, and hopefully it turns into a new year one of these weeks.
One of these weeks. Well, thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate you having me on today.
Absolutely. Take good care.